Sure. So I would start by saying that I think that the BlackRock deal is really huge news. So basically, Coinbase is going to have their offerings integrated into BlackRock's Aladdin platform. Aladdin is assets, liabilities, debt, and derivatives investment platform, if I recall correct. And so I think it's important to understand that that platform has as of at least last year, has above 21 trillion USD of assets on it, running through that platform. So that includes both BlackRock's external, and also BlackRock's portfolio itself. So it's really a big deal. So first of all, I kind of wanted to emphasize that. And then the second thing that I think is super interesting is that I do think we've kind of gotten through the crisis time in terms of rate hikes. The rate hikes for September, November, and December currently our expectations are probably more along the lines of 50, 25, and 25 versus the 75s that we just had. So I'm cautiously optimistic in the near to medium term. I guess those are the first 2 points that I would emphasize.
And so, that's really interesting. You're seeing crypto bottoming out potentially. In terms of institutional adoption, what are you seeing in Asia?
So I think it's very difficult to talk about Asia as just one class. It's quite different in China versus India versus a lot of different places. But I think that we continue to be enormously bullish on Asian developers and Asian projects. I think it's really a mixed picture if you look at the regulatory and other environments on a country-by-country basis.
Let's zero in then on China, the state of trading and mining there,
Sure.
Because I understand, they were huge in mining and mining, but now they've limited those processes to the point of banning them. I don't know how successful they've been.
Sure, as always, it's a little complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, as always, it's a little complicated, as you just alluded to, Christine. So there tends to be cycles in China, as we know, of things getting banned, and then there's kind of a thaw over a period of time, and there's a sharp ban again, things like that. And so we did have the very dramatic mining ban, but mining has slowly come back in China, and we're even seeing Chinese miners exert influence in kind of old school ways with regards to the ETH-PAL and fork proposal, which is a little hard for me to take seriously, but we're starting to see these miners be more influential in the global scene again after the crackdown. And this is kind of a recurring cycle, as we've seen over many years now.
Is there any hope for institutional adoption of Bitcoin or the cryptocurrencies in China?
Sure. So in terms of tokenless blockchain, that continues to be okay. And in terms of Chinese institutional investors doing things in an offshore way, that continues to be okay. But it's really a lot more questionable if you start talking about institutional investors participating within mainland China itself. But actually, one thing that I find quite interesting is that there has been a little bit of a comeback. It's always hard to measure directly because Chinese retail has to use VPNs and things like that, and it always gets quite complicated. But we have observed that there's been a little bit of a comeback with Chinese retail investors, and I think actually StepN is the best case of that. If you look at StepN very closely, you'll notice that Chinese participants are an important part of that success story. So
I'm a big
I would be a little
player
more
of StepN.
cautious. Okay, all right. So I'd be a little more cautious about Chinese institutional doing things in China. That's not something that I would expect to see in a big way anytime soon. But Chinese retail, maybe there's a little bit of a thaw there. StepN being the best example of that.
I wonder how you see the impact of how Speaker Pelosi's visit to Taiwan is impacting the region and U.S.-China tensions and the impact that may have on the crypto markets. We have had an analyst on the show saying that it could potentially stir more activity in Taiwan, especially in the use of cryptocurrencies.
Sure. So it's not super obvious to me why Pelosi's visit to Taiwan would have a stimulative effect on Taiwanese crypto users. That doesn't super make sense to me. But we do know that crypto is a risk-on asset. There's a lot of evidence for that over many years now. And so certainly any kind of geopolitical tensions between major powers, I would view as bearish for crypto. And it's certainly clear that the visit to Taiwan has sparked a very vociferous reaction, both by the Chinese government and by, just in my observation, citizens of China as well. So it's not just coming from the government; it's for sure coming from the everyday people too. In my observation, that's mostly anecdotal, but it's
is that putting a chilling effect on the markets?
So again, I think anything that is geopolitical tensions can be chilling for markets. It's not obvious to me that it would have the same kind of impact as the situation in Ukraine, for example. I suppose in a mild, it could have a mild chilling effect, but it's not something that I would view as having a major impact on crypto or even international markets international non-crypto markets at the current time. I'd be surprised if that were to be the case for an extended duration. Of course, there are going to be military exercises for the first week of August, and there's a lot of pressure for the government to take an even stronger response. But again, for over any longer duration of time, I would be surprised if that were to have any kind of substantial chilling effect on either. Well, certainly on the crypto market. Let's leave it at that. It gets more complicated if you start talking about second order supply chain impact and things like that.